Alright, welcome back everyone. Welcome back. Somewhere along the line I had lost, well, a video flip. My phone got tipped over. Video was up sideways, so kind of deleted that one. So, nevertheless, all the electronics are in it. You guys really didn't miss nothing. You knew what was happening. Sorry about all the skips in the videos and the breaks in the action and all that good stuff. But we are finally down to the, getting down to the axle here. So off camera, I installed this upper 3-link mount. Ram screws in from underneath with some lock nuts up on top. And this stuff sits in quite a bit farther than what it does on the WL Toys. Like the WL Toys trailing arms are probably sitting out this way, maybe another 1/4 of an inch on either side, so I have to make like a spacer or something, possibly, just to see if I can gap it over a little bit farther. Same with up top with the upper link mount. The WL Toys sits out a little bit on either side. So I've got a couple of these aluminum spacers and a big long screw in my hand. I'm going to try to put a spacer on either side and put the upper link mounts on, and then just run this one big screw from one side all the way across to the other side. So we'll see about that. Another thing that I noticed right off the bat is that this axle is quite a bit narrower than this other axle. Quite a bit. So I'm definitely going to have to use that 8mm spacer on there, but man, I don't know. It might not be enough. So didn't count on that, you know. Once again, measure once, cut 10 times. But we'll see what we can do. We'll see what it looks like. I'll get this guy apart the rest of the way here. I just have to finish taking out this last trailing arm screw on the right hand side. One on the left side is most of the way out. That guy right there is almost undone, and I just have to finish taking off this one over here, and we'll be all set on that. And then I'm gonna have to pull out the drive shaft grub screw or set screw or whatever you want to call it. Alright, and now we have to do is pull apart this set screw here on the grub screw on the drive shaft. So I'm probably going to do that off camera here real quick, because I'm going to have to fish around for a different Allen wrench size. WL Toys has a bigger grub screw on it. And that was a piece of cake. Well, that is off. WL Toys axle. Still got my JB Weld water weld on the one side. Just looking to make sure that these guys are the same size diameter, and they are close enough. Close enough for my quality. But WL Toys has this one big fat set screw that goes in and sits on a flat spot on the shaft, which you're probably not seeing, but sits on that flat spot on the shaft. The RC4 drive has a hole going right through the shaft. So I might just run a screw right through the shaft with a lock nut on the back edge of it and just run it like that. Because I don't know if I have a grub screw that's large enough to fit through the WL Toys hole on the drive shaft. So give me another second here to do some searching. I tell you what, guys, that grub screw is bigger than an M3mm. Which you're not going to be able to focus on here, but that thing is fat. I've got an M3mm going through the shaft currently. I just had to drill out this hole just a pinch. I'm just kind of running this one larger screw through just to kind of chase the hole out. But yeah, this M3mm slid right through the end of the drive shaft like it was nothing. So yeah, that's a big fat grub screw there. And that is an ugly setup, but the drive shaft is attached. Couldn't find the right size screw for here. Nothing in my TF2 parts. I had to go into my stainless steel screw kit for the twin hammers and to dig up, search through all this stuff to find the proper length screw for that. So, yep, now the WL Toys is stealing parts from the twin hammers. Again, it already has a twin hammers front drivetrain in it, so right on. Let me see about fabricating the rest of this. Well, guys, I was in need of a couple of spacers for my trailing arm links. I had a couple of aluminum spacers out here, but they were just a little bit too big. So I found these couple plastic pieces that I scavenged from that toy helicopter that I scrapped a long time ago for that experimental project. And I'm going to take these little plastic ends off them right here. Just cutting them off and using that for a spacer on either side. And then what you have left are these two little guys right here, which aren't perfect, but they don't have to be. I just need that gap. Alright guys, so I learned this one from watching RC Everyday's channel. Got my screw here going through this trailing arm. And this red piece that's sitting on top of it is some coating off of a wire. Because this aluminum spacer that I'm going to put on there is just a little bit too fat and was walking around on the screw. So I put that coating on there to take up some of the gap. Oh man, we are getting somewhere, guys. We are getting somewhere. Hee hee. I was kind of wondering if the gear ratios were going to be right from the RC 4-wheel drive drivetrain to the WL Toys. Nothing's hopping. Everything seems okay, so I just have to attach this prop. That prop is just slid on there right now. It's not fastened on in any way, shape, or form. So I need to drill a hole through that guy real quick and run a screw through it. So a couple more minutes here. I tell you what, guys, chasing this set screw through this boat prop is not an easy thing to do, man. Just no real good way to hold on to this thing. Alright, well, I started out using a fairly large grub screw or a set screw to trying to find this, get the set screw out of my magnetic tray here so I can show you. This big guy right here. Was using this to tap out the hole on the prop, and I tried running it through all the way when I was attaching the prop, but it's just too big to fit through the shaft on the end of the axle, or the output shaft. So I end up using a M3 drive shaft pin, where it has a thread on one end and then a smooth shank on the other end. So that's what's holding my prop on currently. And there's a little upside down view, guys, of what we got going on. So the prop is attached, but my wheels are quite a bit, probably at least, I don't know, maybe 4 millimeters narrower than they were before. Just because this axle's not quite as wide as a WL Toy axle or a Twin Hammers axle. So Might need some like 12mm wheel spacers or something to make these guys right. It's either that or I'm going to have to take the 8mm ones off the front and put regular wheel spacers on the front or wheel hubs and see if it balances out. It might affect my ride in the water because it was pretty stable before from side to side, but now it's a little bit more narrow than it was, so I don't know how it's going to affect that. So we'll see on that. I need to flip this guy back around upright, and I think the only thing that's left to do is slap the front tires on it and put the body on it, and she should be good to go. So a couple seconds here. I'm just going to take a little pause and a little break for myself, so 1 second here. And I said I was going to take a break, but I lied. I didn't. I lit up a cigarette and just kept on working. So that's what we're looking at right now, guys. Got the body on there, got the tires on there. Yes, I did go and paint the letters on my tires. Painted the lugs all silver on the inside, painted the letters all white. I don't necessarily recommend doing that, especially if you don't have a steady hand and you're using a paint marker like I was. But we do have a problem here. This back axle is significantly narrower than the front axle. So I'm not too sure what I want to do about that. If I could get some 12mm wheel spacers for the back, I could probably compensate for it and it would be okay. Technically, I don't even know if I'm going to need paddles on it at this point in time. I might be able to just put my Proline Super Swampers back on here and run it like that. There's definitely more back spacing on those Proline wheels. So if I were to use the 8mm spacer on the front and no spacer on the front and the 8mm on the back, it might equal out, you know. But right now, the back end is pretty narrow, and the front end is pretty wide. So I don't know if we can get a good view on this where we're going to be able to see that see how much wider that front end is compared to the back end. It's quite a bit. It's like half a tire. So she looks a little funny. She looks a little funny right now. Don't know if I necessarily want to run it like that. It looks okay from this angle. But if you're looking at it from front to back, you can definitely tell. You can definitely tell that those back tires are a little bit narrower than the front. And the drive shaft angle is a little bit off the pinion angle. The axles kind of rock backwards a little bit. And there's really nothing I can do about that unless I had like adjustable links up here where I could crank it in and tilt it this way a little bit. So I don't know. Don't know how she's going to work. I haven't put any foam on the back axle just yet. I don't know how it's going to float in the water. I might just fill up a sink and float this guy real quick with no foam on the back axle and see how it does. The back axle was riding pretty high before with the foam on it, so I don't know. Like I said, I put more foam on the bottom of it and I put more foam inside it. So it might not even need that extra little bit of foam around the back axle. So not too sure what I'm going to do with that just yet. Alright guys, I think that's going to conclude today's build series video here. Just to finish things off, I took my trailing arm links and I moved them from, you're not going to be able to see it, but I moved them from the lower mounts up to the upper mounts just to try to bring the axle forward a little bit more, just to try to correct that pitch on the back a little bit more, which it didn't do much for it. Ultimately, I could put a couple of ties, a couple of zip ties around these upper links or whatever and give them a little squeeze, and that would tilt the back end up a little bit more as well. But nevertheless, I'm pretty tired. I'm sitting here dropping screws. I've been up working on this thing all night, so gonna call it a night, guys. Right now it's pretty much done. I need to float test it and see how it floats, and to judge whether or not I need to put foam on the back axle. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and like I said, I'm pooped. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. This is Jim from JCRC doing the mod on the WL Toys with the RC four-wheel drive forward center, well, I guess RC four-wheel drive 6x6 center rear axle or forward rear axle, whatever you want to call it, with the boat prop. That's what we were doing. So there it is. Should be done. And I am pooped. So thanks for watching, guys. Click like and subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff, and we'll continue this thing later on today. Thanks again. We'll see y'all.